Now that I got the rear mechanical parts all done, suspension, jack shafts, chains, all of that, now it's time to build the part in the middle. And we're doing an awesome tool giveaway. An Artroid CNC plasma cutter with the X2 indexing system that they just came out with, and an Everlast plasma cutter to power it. So every $5 you spend on the website gets you an entry to win this whole package. We've got some sweet new merch. We have shop shirts with the embroidered logo on the front and this cool logo on the back. We've got premium beanies, premium hoodies, and a bunch of other new stuff. Give yourself a chance to win the ability to cut out sweet, sweet hexagons with your very own robot. I'm just gonna keep going from this forward basically, because I have to at least figure out where the suspension pivot is gonna be for the front swing arm before I start building it, because I need to know what angle it needs to come down at and all of that.
So you're visualizing some ideas here?
Yeah, I already have this one notched because I'm pretty sure that that's how that's gonna go. But I think I'm gonna do something along the lines of that. 2 bars that kind of follow the same trajectory but at slightly different angles, so then they converge here. And then there'd be some like trellisy business going on, like shoop, shoop. Make a round one of those things right here. And then, yeah, do some like trellisy nonsense there. For structural reasons and what it needs to tie into up here, obviously I don't have forks, so it doesn't need to be up. It actually needs to kind of go down a little bit. I like this shape, but my attachment point for the swing arm is probably going to be somewhere here. And then the shock will be kind of up on this upper section. So what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is take this lower one and put another bend in it and bring it down a little bit. Away we go. Stay. I was getting ready to bend this second piece, and then I realized I should probably notch it first, at least roughly, so that it's sitting in the right place before I decide where to bend it. It's all relevant. All right, time to cut out a couple of thick boy washers to make some appropriately sized ones of these for the engine mounts. These always are very satisfying because I just get to use up like little bits and scraps and snippets of the sheet of metal. I made it just a smidgen larger than the tube size so that I can bevel it, weld it, and then sand it smooth, or put it in the lathe and make it smooth that way, because perfection. This is the refined North Idaho lathe. If you remember the North Idaho lathe, you've been watching for a long time. This is just my favorite method of connecting tubes to other things. It doesn't always work because of, angles. It's just incredibly strong, and it looks very nice. I mean, it's how KTM does it on their chassis, Ducati, it's done for a reason, but it's also just super easy. Like, even if you don't have a CNC plasma cutter to cut out your thick washers, you can often find one in your washer bin if you have such a thing. Or even just cut a rough circle, drill a hole in it, and then, you know, or hole saws actually work really well for cutting those. Anyway, it's super easy and it just looks very clean. If you've never tried one of these cut off or one of these flap discs with the rounded edges, I highly recommend it. These are just the cheap ones off Amazon. I think we actually have a link to them on our website along with most of the other tools that we use. That rounded edge, very nice for fine-tuning notches, getting into corners. I like it. Chris was over in Olympia where his dad lives, and he picked up a giant propane tank for us for the shop because we couldn't get one here locally. He said that when he showed up, we should be filming, so I don't know why. Morning, Chris.
Morning.
Oh, that's very premium. 420 gallons. That's hilarious.
One of your really big fans
Yeah,
and a super good friend of mine,
yeah.
Dennis Baker, bought that sticker for you.
Well, that's awesome. Tell him thanks.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I don't know if that's what I'm doing yet, but I wanted it there for visualization. I think that's going to be where the suspension pivot is. I think it's going to look cool with the front swing arm. Has a higher pivot like that, so it'll kind of, come up something like that. It'll just give it a really unique stance. I think I'm gonna go for a pretty well upright seating position on this, like not too chopper, and not too crotch rocket. Oh, that would be pretty cool. You can put the handlebars down here. No, yeah. So just kind of get an idea for where the steering column's gonna be, so I can figure out where and what to build up there. I've decided I'm going to see what it would look like if I take this bend and increase it until this point meets that point. Because at the end of the day, this is the point that needs to be super strong, the suspension pivot. So I'm pretty sure I've decided that I don't like that. I think there's something about this point here being too pointy in conjunction with this round part being too roundy. I don't know, there's just something not quite right about it. So what if we make this extra asymmetrical up here, and instead of coming to a point in the middle, this one comes across to here because the shock could mount something like that. So we're gonna do a little trellisy nonsense, kind of like a zoop, 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 zoop. And then from here, I'm thinking maybe we'll kind of go off this way, support that side, and then have one that comes down from wherever this ends back to this side. It's really ridiculous. There's just a few little random chunks of scrap pipes, the Jenga that I can get up to, like, those are just balanced there. This one doesn't. Oh wait. Works better that way. Ha! Now that's what I call accuracy.
That's a satisfying fit.
Wow. Yeah, that'll do. That's probably the most precise notch I've ever done. And part of that, I think, is because when I cut the outside of the bend off, it detensioned it, right? Because that's the side that's stretched, so it went whoop and made it nice and tight. And that's all fine and dandy, but so I got it straightened out. Now it's not perfect. The point is, I had to get excited about it being a perfect notch because it had to be changed. Just had to get all excited. I got this all tacked on here, and that notch that was incredibly perfect is still quite good. I had to change it just a little bit to get the angles right. I was looking at it and I thought this was like way off from this side. Turns out it was an optical illusion because of the asymmetries of the engine. I put a piece of pipe across here and leveled it and made sure it's all straight. Aesthetically, I don't really like that. It's just a big straight bar. I think it could look better. I want it to kind of visually be related to the rear here. There's one pivot here and one pivot here, which is also lighter weight because it's just all of this here doesn't exist. And it's more than strong enough.
Yup, this could be you. Brand new Arc Droid, the brand new X2, and an Everlast plasma cutter. All you gotta do is buy something on our store. Every $5 you spend gets you an entry on grindhardplumbingco.com.
I went and dug around in the scrap area and found these sheets left over from when we built the Bronco. And we were cutting lots of big parts, but there's tons of usable area left on this. I'm gonna need 4 of those. These didn't come out perfectly true on the chop saw, so I figured why not throw them in the lathe real quick and make them perfect. Plus, to get a really nice deburr on the lathe.
These look nice.
Yeah, they came out pretty good. This isn't like news to anyone that knows anything about welding, but this one I was welding these edges here, and they got a little hot, you know, for coloration, just because there's just not that much surface area there. This one, I welded it with it clamped to the table, and it turned out a lot better because obviously the table was absorbing a lot of the heat. So, you know, little trick I just taught myself there. I mean, if I'd ever really thought about it, it would have been obvious, but I just, you know. Oh yeah, did you hear my finger just sizzle? That was fun. For a moment, these pieces are still removable. I took this one off so that I could weld this seam because that's going to be underneath it. And then I realized I should go ahead and weld all the edges of these while I can just spin it around. That'll be a lot easier than when it's all, you know, one piece and on the bike. Maybe not perfection, but extreme precision and quality. So, now that I have chaos. Now that I have these mount points figured out and aligned and everything, I could start making the swing arm, but while I'm working on this, I kind of want to just get this part of the frame finished up. I'm thinking about steering, and I could still make these work for the steering, these rams, but I've had a better idea. The problem here is, like, obviously when the steering's all the way this way, this part sticks way out here, and if you're sitting here, that's kind of an impalement issue. And of course, there's other ways it could go. It could, you know, I could angle it more like this. I was looking at pictures of bikes like that have a front swing arm, which is, there's not many, but here's one here. And I was just kind of looking at it to see how other people have done it and just contemplating it all. And I noticed that this one has a cable for the steering, but not like a tensioned cable, a push-pull cable like boats using them for the throttles, and our mini jet boat over there has it for the steering. Here it has two of them, right? There's one on each side there, attached to the handlebars, and then one on each side on the steering. And for this, of course, there isn't going to be anything on this side, but I could still put two of them over there. And that way, because those cables are always stronger pulling than pushing. But I found a website, they can go up to, the weight rating is 1,000 pounds pull, and depending on length of throw, but I'm looking like a 5-inch throw here, 400 pounds on push. So double that, that's way more force than the steering will ever experience. And with cables like that, it's just, I mean, both cables would weigh less than one of these rams, let alone all the fluid and everything else. So weight-wise, it's much less, and it's just way simpler because then all I have to do is, you know, if the steering column is like right there, then, you know, I have a arm on either side on the bottom, and then those two cables just go around into there, and they're not completely unaffected by suspension travel and anything else. This is the steering stem out of the KTM that this bike came from. This has way too many crusty things welded to it for me to want to try and clean it up and use it. But I will use the bearing races out of it, and I'll go find the bearings wherever I have them stashed or order some new ones. But it just so happens that this leftover tubing from building the Broncos Lynx, it is pretty much big enough. It's just a smidgen smaller, but this steering stem had to hold the entire weight of the bike and all of the force of forks and hitting impacts and stuff. The new one only has to hold the force of steering. It doesn't take any impact because it's not a load-bearing point. So I'm going to make it shorter, just to make it fit in here better and look cleaner. To the scrap with this, and to the lathe with this. When I was ordering new cutters for the lathe, I've been wanting to try out one of these for a while. I keep seeing people use it in little video clips here and there. One of these like circular edged cutters. And I ordered one that's too thick to fit my tool holders. So, I'm gonna take the lathe tool, put it in the middle, and make it smaller. I was eyeballing this going, oh, that looks pretty close. I should probably check it with the calipers. And it turns out, I eyeballed it to essentially perfect. Just wanted a little bit snug. The wall thickness here should be a little over 1/8 of an inch, and then here it's a little under 1/8 of an inch. But look at these forbidden noodles that I made.
Wow.
They are, I mean, some of these are taller than me. I've got a new piece bent here to replace this one. I think I'm actually going to put, this is a 35-degree bend. I think I'm going to go an extra couple degrees just to get a little more vertical separation here. In case you were wondering where the gas tank is going to go, I am also wondering that. But I have an idea. It's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to be very elaborate. We'll be getting an air filter just like the one on the Colonel. It's a big oval foam filter. Nice high-performance option for this engine. Build a real fancy gas tank that goes from like up here by the steering stem and doesn't cover any of this tubing because this tubing is so much of the aesthetic of the bike. The gas tank will probably kind of wrap around, like have a hole in it for the air filter so you can see it and so they can get air, but then wrap around both sides and then come like maybe back down here even kind of under the seat a little bit. It won't have a whole lot of volume, but you know, it's not like this thing's gonna be doing 1,000-mile road trips. Compound notches like this are just always a pain, where it's at an angle this way and that way, two different angles, right? And then I had a thought. Maybe I can just take the tubing notcher and put it on here. center to it. It's like 3 3/4 that way. Not that it actually matters. The steering column could be any angle because it doesn't actually determine the rake or anything. But I want it to be around 25, 26 degrees because that way it'll feel like a normal bike because that's the rake angle of a normal bike. So, oh, you know what would be really cool is if I get this positioned perfectly on this tube, I could leave it there, build this tube, notch it in the same place. Side all ready to go, and I have it fully welded back here. Well, as fully as I can reach. I ended up not having to notch that. It's just incredibly close clearance to the engine, but it clears. So I even put a little piece of scrap in here and tacked it here just for extra rigidity for notching. And I have it tacked on the notch. Of course, those tacks will go away once I cut through them, but they'll help for the beginning of the notch. I also realized I have now made the notcher a fixture of the bike. You see how that is gonna not come off of there?
Oh.
Well, that also doesn't go in there because they have to spread, but well, it may not have been faster, but that is the most precise way that could possibly be done. I'll knock out this brace here. Okay, a little more levered.
Oh man!
If I hadn't welded them all the way.
More.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now it's unstoppable. Hey. Oh, the whistle blow. Hey, look at that. It only stayed bent like maybe 1/4 inch at most. Which is good, because then that gives me just enough space to get this in there. And then squoze them back together. I could tack this in, but it's holding itself in just fine with a little bit of a tension from a tie down here. I'm gonna go ahead and make the pieces that go like this, that tie that together. But I don't like the look of it being a piece of straight tube. I went to all the trouble of making this radius, and I was getting ready to notch it. And then on the table I had this scrap of bend, and I was like, I should go see if that looks good. I should have done that first because I think this actually looks quite a bit better than this. And also does a lot better job of providing clearance for the steering stuff.
I've been left the elevator up there.
I jumped down to the truck. I should have at least dropped the little remote for the elevator down here too. Oh, I'm just not feeling very strong right now. I ate a family-sized frozen dinner and 2 tons of candy. I might need help. I don't know what to do.
I'll give you.
My stomach really doesn't feel good.
Oh my god!
I think those are all mine except for 2.
That's a lot. so last night I got this all figured out. Got both these notches on, or both these braces bent and notched, and getting those two perfect and aligned with each other was kind of a process. And they're mostly welded. Everything that I could reach is welded, which of course is more than enough for now. So that's all pretty well done. On to the trellising. I just took a load of scrap metal and emptied all my scrap buckets. I realized I might as well have one everywhere that I need one. Yeah, that's getting pretty close. It's not. You can't eat it. It's bad for your teeth. Look at this little elevator dog. It's a good little spot for you to sit. Look, you can sit in the sun and look out over everything. Yeah. Look at all this fur coming off.
Oh my gosh.
This one was a bit of a challenge, but I think it worked out. This one in a second ago. It's just a matter of... Look at that. Obviously, it's not the most perfect fit everywhere because of how it has to go in there, but all things considered, I think that's well in the range of acceptable. What's a tragedy?
This just stripped out one nut on one of these things.
Gee, I wonder who could have done that.
I have no idea, but now I have to deal with it.
Well, that's okay, because it probably was your fault.
And this is all looking so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really come together.